This is the Jotul 602, and if you know your stoves, really, that's enough said. This stove is a Norwegian all-cast iron Scandinavian gem that has been being made since the 1930s and is the highest selling stove in the world.
Who do you think you are?
It comes finished with the standard black paint, or this, which is blue-black enamel. If you've seen stovepipes, they're covered with an enamel finish, but it's a matte finish. And this is very much like that. It's not a cheap option, but it is wipe clean. It's also DEFRA approved, eco-design, has a single air control underneath, direct air as well through the back. Oh, actually, and it has a cooking plate on the top, obviously, but if you use the rear outlet, then you have a rear cooking plate, so you have one for a pot, one for a frying pan. It's very exciting. Okay, let's see how it lights. It's a very, very deep stove, but same score as always. You just sort of feed the fuel into the back at the base. Gaps are very important. I haven't got much in the way of kindling, so I've gone lazy, and I've got 2 firelighters. Up to temperature in 20 minutes. For a big heavy cast iron stove, there's no problems with lighting it. Bearing in mind that this stove obviously was designed nearly a century ago, they've managed to get it up for this new eco version up to 81% efficient, which is amazing. Starting from, from the ground up is far easier, but this is just an adaptation of a very old design, and yet it's still really, really efficient. I've even run it overnight, come down in the morning, and it was still as clean as this. Over time, because this stove doesn't have a conventional air wash system, it does sort of, as you can see here, sort of mist or slightly haze over, but because it's such a deep stove, basically you stack the fuel away from the glass, and I've never had any blackening to the glass. It's just basically run clean, even without an air wash system. This stove is nice and deep, so there's no issue with getting smoke out of the front. And it's got a wooden handle, so as you can see, I can use it even when the stove is hot. The controls, it only has one, so you go fully out for when you're lighting the stove, and then general running, I think I would put it sort of basically in line with the ash lip. If you've got the DEFRA kit installed, it will close a little bit further than that, but not much. I don't have the DEFRA kit installed, so if we go from fully open like that and close it down, it's pretty controllable. It's not astounding, but it's certainly enough to get it to run for 11 hours, which I did. Sort of shut down, 11 hours later, it was easy to relight it. Interestingly, this is a stove that's sort of seasoned, so when you first get it, it's nowhere near as controllable as that. Once you've got a bed of ash and stuff has bedded in properly, the control on that's really quite good. We go from that sort of straight back up again. We test fuel economy by getting the stove up to operating temperature and then burning a single net of kiln-dried ash on it to see how long it will maintain at operating temperature. This stove is a very, very functional tool. We were getting well into double figures, so getting 10, 11 hours was relatively easy. You could go further than that. It's a high-performing stove for serious use. Interestingly, the heat doesn't come all at the front. It comes out of everywhere. I guess the idea is it's a cooking stove, so this is not something you stick into the back of a fireplace. It's very much for freestanding or big, tall fireplaces like this, so you can cook on it and the heat can spill out of everywhere. But yeah, running it overnight is easy as anything.
It's after 11 hours of burning, more than enough to get another fire.
And cooking on it's fantastic too. Stove, do that. Oh yeah. Oh. I don't know why, but that's so much better than an oven. This stove isn't going to be for everyone. It's not exactly a great focal point because the front is so little and you've got loads of depth. It also is, I mean, it's been modernised, but it's not what you'd call modern. It's an old design that's been improved. It also has a handle design which can need adjusting, and the internal components servicing on it, it's not easy to work on this stove. And it's also not suited to small fireplaces. It needs lots of space around it. However, this stove in the right home, outbuilding or garden room, could be spectacular. Put it freestanding in a room where the heat can come out of all sides, with the flue coming off the top. Use it as the functional tool that it is for running all day and night, cooking on, drying the washing, heating and lighting the room. This stove is wonderful. It's not for everyone, but for the traditional ones of us who want a tool more than just a toy, this stove has the name, the pedigree, the history and the function too. I've loved every minute with this stove. I mean, me and Amy have camped out in front of it, got up, runs overnight, you can cook your breakfast on it, we've dried our washing in front of it. If you can get in the spirit of the person that this was designed for, this really has to be the very best of the best, still, after nearly 100 years.